Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Zach, founder of MilliChronicle.com. I welcome all of you to this open Twitter space discussion on the topic Religious Intolerance, a Threat to Humanity. We have an amazing panel today, and I'm honored to host this space where we have brilliant minds joining together from United States, from UK, from Sweden, from Saudi Arabia, from Egypt, from Morocco, and from different parts of the world. This is the first time I'm hosting a Twitter space, and unfortunately, Twitter hasn't given the recording option. So I will be doing a third-party recording, and we'll upload it on Facebook and YouTube later, inshallah. The thing is, why we felt that this topic has to be addressed is because we have lately seen a lot of chaos evolving due to the religious intolerance, especially in the countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, some of the African countries. And unfortunately, we also had some incidents in India and Pakistan as well. This has, in fact, created a huge vacuum for the hate mongers to ignite the hatred and make people fight in the name of religion. And indeed, we think that religion plays a vital role in our lives. It works as a guiding light, and it helps us decide what is good and bad for us. Sometimes we feel like inviting people to our belief system or to advertise it by calling people to read and research about our religions. But the problem arises when we start feeling that our way of life or our ideology is supreme, and then we force it uh, upon the people to follow our way and our likes and our dislikes. This also leads to racism and extreme intolerance towards other religions. And as a practicing Muslim, I believe what Quran says, that there is no compulsion in religion. And that means you cannot force people to accept your religion and your way of life. Yes, you do have the right to talk about your religion, but you don't have the right to force it upon others. So let me not trouble you with my lecture, and let's listen to the panelists. We have amazing people joining us. So let's have the cross fertilization of ideas, and I'm sure that our efforts won't ever go in vain, and we can contribute to the betterment of the human society. So we have Irina Tsukerman, who is a wonderful person I have ever known on Twitter. She is a national security analyst and human rights lawyer from United States. To be honest, I've been following Irina for the past 2 years on Twitter, and I have benefited a lot through her tweets. We also have Sharon Collins. Sharon is a very brave lady with courageous views and courageous efforts. And we, in fact, had some Zoom sessions last year. And we also have Dr. Samina Khan from Riyadh as a speaker for this session. She's a medical doctor by profession, and I've seen her that she cares a lot to speak on the contemporary issues. It's our honor to have Dr. Samina Khan. So let's begin. I think more and more speakers will be joining this session, and more people join, and more they come up, and they want to speak. Then we'll give them the option to speak as well. So let's listen to Irina first. Irina, over to you now. Irina, could you unmute yourself and please speak? Okay. Let's listen to Sharon. Sharon, over to you now. Sharon, please go ahead.
Hey everyone. So, some of you might know who I am. I am Sharon Collins. I am on Twitter for a lot of days. I do live in the United States. I predominantly talk about U.S. politics and that of our foreign policy. Mostly, I came on board when Trump came on board, and then also now having to deal with the lovely Biden administration and everything that's going on in the world here. I try to stick to politics, even though religion obviously comes into play when you're dealing with the Middle East, which I have gotten, unfortunately, I've gotten the good and the bad. I try to stick with the good and just ignore the majority of the bad, which is kind of hard to do in some aspects. However, with my great panelists of people, we all stick together because we have to deal with it, unfortunately, when it comes to the bad. We all get, I guess you could say, attacked in different aspects when unfortunate events happen in this world. We have all had to deal with it. And as I said, we have all built bonds with each other because we have to deal with it in different aspects. So Zach and I have had to end up dealing with different aspects. I see what he gets, and I absolutely hate it on so many levels because he gets it on so many different sides. And I think it hurts us all, not just me being in a different world, I guess you can say, because over here we don't deal with what you have to deal with on that side of the world. I think Irina gets her side and her own hate. And so each of us have to deal with it. But then I see the love that we have for each other. So I guess you can see it on both sides. And that's pretty much our extent. And what we try to project is the tolerance for each other. And that's pretty much what we all try to put out there. And that's pretty much been my experience in everything. So I don't know about the rest of you guys and what we all try to do in this. I always try to deal with the crazy world of politics, which isn't very nice, has a lot of aspects. So, Zach, back to you.
If I can just chime in, first of all, and thank you. I'm Rabbi Poupko in New York. I wanted to thank Sharon and everyone here for really building bridges. And we've seen a lot of the negative sides of what social media can create. But on the other hand, we're also seeing incredible bridges being built and really amazing connections. I'm inspired. I never thought I would be able to connect with people from so many different countries. And so I think, one way of building these coalitions has been social media. I can't wait to visit Saudi Arabia one day. I think that would be an incredible privilege. And I think we just need to work on expanding coalitions of religious tolerance, of people who are countering the extremism we see in our world. And I think it's really based on those personal connections that are built day by day by like-minded individuals who do want to see a better future and future generations living in a world that is not filled with divisiveness. But rather, people who are focused on making this world a better place through coalitions of tolerance and understanding. I think that's just one thing. And I do think as a rabbi, I think religious leaders definitely do have a role to play in that. I think we see too often how religion is used to divide people, but I actually see often when I meet people from other religions, the amount of faith we have in one another and understanding the fact that we actually, live lives that are very similar in many ways in terms of commitment to, to values, to ritual, to holidays. And in that sense, even though we're very different, that actually builds trust. There's a great book called The Dignity of Difference by the late Lord Rabbi Jonathan Sachs about the importance of recognizing our differences and because we are different and because we respect those differences, finding some way to actually cooperate and have a better understanding of one another.
And that's true. But in those differences, you can find the similarities between all of us. And that's myself, I've noticed that even though we may live in different countries and may have different, what may come off on surface different values, but technically it's still about family. It's still about religion. It's still about the things that bind us together as humans and keeping us all together. So when you get down to it, we're still very similar in all of those aspects. It's, and it's just accepting those differences within one another and stop fighting over it and realizing how similar in a lot of aspects we are. So that's what I have noticed dealing with people who are, clear across the world, which normally you would never interact with if it wasn't for social media. And that's what I've noticed, which kind of changes your perspective on a lot of things. So that's helped out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. That commonality is something that is important. And as we see, the world is changing at a fast pace. The ability to create those connections, to create those bonds, and to reach out across, lines that were previously assumed to be fixed and non. Something that you would never, no one would find someone speaking from this country and that country, or this religion and that religion, and really thinking in a new way and saying, okay, well, we may not agree on this and that, but we actually do agree on the many other things. I think that fresh look is what we're seeing, especially following the Abraham Accords and other developments. And it's great. It's really great to watch. Very refreshing.
Right. Like, you realize we may not be able to agree on the 10%, but when you realize you do agree on the 90%, that's when you realize there's a lot more, and of how similar different things that you might be able to find it, and then you can find, connections with the other aspects. And so many arguments and fights are about those little things where there really shouldn't be about those little things. And that's the bigger things, and you can't help the other bad things that happen, but it's all those other positives that we have to continue to keep bringing together, and not allow those intolerance to continue to divide all of us. And I think that's what so many of us have faced. And I can say probably the past 4 years, I have had dealings with people that quote unquote are so different than me, but they're really not. I have been in the, I guess people can say, the Muslim world for 4 years now as a American Christian, and I can tell you they're not that different. We all have families, we all have friends, we all love to go out, we love to go out to dinner. We love to we go to our jobs, we take care of our families, we all of that aspect of normal everyday life. That's what we all deal with. That's what I've noticed. We still cultivate, we still talk. Besides the language barrier, sometimes I might have. Pretty much we're dealing with the same everyday aspects of life. And really within our own religion, it's still very much the same. It's our family. It's taking care of who we are as people, being good citizens, being good, having good morals and values and all the other stuff. So that's what I continuously look at when it comes to someone who says that they're different, but they're really not.
Yeah, absolutely. Something funny that happened to me here in New York is one day I got a email from someone, a priest that works in a big church, and he says, "Rabbi, we need help getting this permit from the city. Can you help put me in touch with someone?" And I thought to myself, well, only in New York will someone from a church be reaching out to the rabbi to put him in touch to get a permit for his church. But it really, that kind of dialogue shouldn't be an only in New York thing. It should be, we should be there for each other. We should respect each other. And, we all stand to gain from a world in which we're all there for one another.
Right.
So yeah, but I think that the recent development of the Abraham Accords really has opened a window between not only Jews and Muslims, but many people in the Western world who were not aware of the possibility for dialogue the way we see it today. I think are becoming aware of it. Just today, you had an airplane coming from Egypt to Israel. It hasn't been like that, with the official Egyptian logo. It hasn't been like that for 40 years. And just seeing people, I again, back to New York, I met someone in synagogue last week, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to Dubai. We're going to be there for the next year." It's just an incredible development that has also been opening ways to Saudi Arabia, to countries all over the Middle East, Morocco, etc. And I think that's a huge development.
No, it is. It is. I myself went to Saudi Arabia, which would have never done before ever. So, the more people who open themselves up to different cultures and different environment and see the way things are not as horrible as they may think it is, they realize, oh, so it's not, all this horrible stuff. It opens you up to realizing, okay, it's not what they see in movies or whatever they think it is. As I said, I'm not I don't live a life of reality TV. I'm a normal person, who work every single day, and that's what most people think. They think it's a reality. No, normal Americans do not live like that. So we live like everything else. And it's the same thing when people go to the Middle East and they see it and they're just like, wow, it's like normal. Like, yes, it's normal. And it's the same aspects. So, because, if you don't experience it yourself, you just don't know what it's like. Because if you don't integrate or involve yourself with each other's lives, you just don't really know what it's like to be with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see Irina trying to speak. You got to unmute yourself, Irina.
Okay.
And
unmute.
Yeah. Let's Irina speak. She's been waiting for long. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for hosting us. I deliberately muted myself earlier because I didn't want background noise where people are speaking. I wanted to address something interesting at point that Rabbi Poupko touched on concerning Abraham Accords and why specifically that sort of dialogue is different from what has been tried before. I personally have, in the past, while living in New York, have engaged in different efforts at interfaith dialogue. They've all been failures for various reasons. Some of the reasons were because people coming into it didn't know much about their own religions, much less each other's, and yet they were trying to build common ground on theological principles without really having an understanding. So it became really banal, and therefore core issues that could have actually brought people together were not really explored as much. The other problem is that a lot of these efforts turned into political discussions, which was not helpful. And on the other hand, there were also limitations to which people were willing to take their openness to each other if they're not really fully committed to overcoming their own biases about the other people. If they're not willing to engage in meaningful relationship, if it's all about showing up to meetings, having a discussion, and then going home and not taking anything from these meetings to their communities, then it's simply not going to work. That's the lesson I learned, and actually for a long time I stayed away from anything remotely called interfaith because I just found it completely unproductive. So one of the positive experiences in my life was engaging with Sheikh Dr. Alisa. He is the head of the Muslim World League in Saudi Arabia, because for the first time I saw that on a high level there was an effort to do something meaningful beyond just nice comments about the importance of cohabitating together societies without hatred. His organization, as I learned, was doing a lot of internal work through things like getting together large gatherings of imams from all over the world, such as pushing the Mecca Declaration, which expounds on the original principles focused on building real tolerance and real respect for other human beings of different backgrounds, and creating educational programming. And I was lucky to be able to engage through practical events, through conferences with the Jewish community, with also with the members from the Christian community, and I saw that there was a space for projects, for things that actually create meaningful bonds. And I see that Abraham Accords actually, which initially built on the idea that Sheikh Dr. Alisa had mentioned, he originally discussed bringing together Jewish, Christian, and Muslim clerics as an Abrahamic initiative long before the term became associated with the peace deals, and and these accords actually reflect what he was doing: engagement on a people-to-people level, and also introduction of education that gets rid of mutual biases, that creates an opportunity to really recognize each other and each other's histories, faiths, and cultures in a meaningful way through official and unofficial programming, through educational initiatives. This is a meaningful way of building interfaith space. I hope it finally replaces the trite kind of attention-seeking efforts that dominated this scene for a long time. I'll in a little while from now, I want to speak about some of the challenges that even such an approach faces. But for now, I kind of want to let others comment first. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Irina. It was wonderful listening to you. And it was wonderful listening to Sharon and a rabbi as well. And I think it's the first time we have listened to a rabbi firsthand. And it was, I can't describe the feeling. I mean, how I feel right now listening to people from different backgrounds and different religions. And we are talking about, one common thing that really matters. No.
I guess if it's okay, just to add one point, is to really speak about next steps. What are some ideas for practical steps going forward? I'd love to hear from you. And again, thank you for your kindness and your graciousness and for organizing this. What are some practical steps that we can take, that people can take to help take these bridges to the next step? I'd love to hear your ideas, Sharon, Irina, and any of the participants.
Well, I think Irina kind of hit the nail on the head. Whenever a lot of us, we try to engage people, but there's, if you come in with any kind of bias, or a lot of people come in with either an agenda or not openness for talking with one another, especially when it comes to politics. Like, you have to kind of keep that kind of out especially in the beginning. So that's usually the beginning steps. When I entered the arena of all of this, I really did not come in with an agenda or any bias. I had to open myself up and just listen to a lot of things. Yes, I did research, and yes, I checked on stuff, but really it was, I really had to do a lot of learning and try to understand what was going on. Obviously, I come from the United States, which, we get a lot of stuff that's agenda driven. I think everybody knows this in one way. So it takes a lot of understanding as to what was going on. So that takes a lot to do. And a lot of aspects are different. So and then you have the multiple different areas. So obviously you have, Saudi Arabia, which I mostly deal with. I kind of stick with the GCCs because there's a lot, right? I think Irina deals with a lot more than I do. One, I don't have the time. I have a whole other separate life. My job is different than, I say, Irina's. So I kind of stick to particular countries, and that's for a reason. It's just I don't have the time to learn. So it does take a lot of time to learn and to develop and cultivate. So really, it's just learning to be, understanding and open yourself up to all this stuff. And don't come in with an agenda or a bias, which is really difficult. I'm not going to tell you it's not. I know a lot of people have had a lot of problems. So I think that's one of the largest aspects that we all have to deal with when trying to open the door up and the communication channel up with one another.
I would add that I've had to confront the challenges of what is the next step, and honestly, it really depends on who you're dealing with, the level of preparedness. Sometimes when there is some ignorance but general open-mindedness, you can delve into a lot of issues fairly quickly. Ultimately, you have to be building some sort of common ground together and see in each other a partner for a better future. With that kind of thinking, you can overcome any type of on a person-to-person level political externality that takes place. I think people mostly understand that that people that what governments are going to do is not in their control, and I think people in today's society, thanks to the internet, they are able to build some level of ties and openness, if they're not completely brainwashed, and at least start asking questions. But of course, it has to be reinforced. It has to be reinforced constantly. It's not going to be easy. You have to be doing events. You have to be engaging in discussions. You have to be educating yourself and being ready to inform to be informed by others to get a lot of pushback. One of the challenges that I see professionally as a human rights lawyer, I deal a lot with societies affected by sectarianism, affected by religious radicalism. Right now, I'm actually in Geneva addressing the horrible situation in Yemen. The Houthis have been launching attacks on Marib. Several children were burned, and this attack is not just a territorial dispute. It's a completely fanatical mindset that dehumanizes other human beings. And it's backed by Iran's Khomeinism. It's backed and reinforced by other radical groups in the area. It's backed by foreign funding. It's backed by weapons. And when you have something like that, when you have a group of fanatics taking control over entire territories, indoctrinating children from birth, brainwashing people who are already not highly educated in a poor, underdeveloped society. The question is, how do you fight that? How do you reach people in that situation, as opposed to relatively open societies where there is at least an effort to and that effort is backed by governments, or at the very least they don't stand in the way. That is a challenge, but I actually believe that there is always an opportunity to change hearts and minds one person at a time, to reach people, um, even if not directly, then at least those who are familiar with those societies that are obviously in the best position to reach those people. But I think it's possible. I think it's possible to reach humanity. I think it's always possible to find somebody who becomes a catalyst for a slow change. It won't be easy, and of course, given the fact that if a society isn't under some sort of authoritarian control, of course it's going to be complicated. But a lot of the times, uh, this level of fanaticism backfires, and there's an opportunity to reach people who are tired of a tyrannical mindset and who start asking themselves questions: is this all there is to life? And I think that creates an opening, and I think that opening should not be abandoned, exploited, ignored out of fear, and I don't think people should be stereotyped or abandoned because they're in the throes of being controlled by radicals. And that goes as true for societies abroad, or as for domestic issues in the United States, where there's a lot of increasing polarization and bubbles, and where there are also radical communities as well. I think it's possible to reach them. I think the same idea applies anywhere, really.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Irina. I think we have a speaker in the queue, Bodika Jones. Bodika Jones, you want to say something? Please go ahead, unmute yourself, and ask anything you want to ask.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just know, like, I find like I've seen videos on YouTube and even people in real life, they like to smack talk about other religions and it just gets boring. Like I've seen a lot of Muslims go, like, because of the Israel-Palestine situation, go on about saying, oh, Jews are bad kind of stuff, smack talking it without, when it's like they don't even know any Jews, so how do they know what Jews are all about? And I've even seen some Jews on YouTube say, oh, all the Muslims want to kill us, which is not true. Because so my question is, how do we stop people from obsessively smack talking?
Who wants to answer this? Sharon or Irina or Rabbi? Who wants to answer this question? That how can we stop people from, hating each other?
My personal experience has been finding allies on the other side who understand you. So I don't think, if I reach out to someone who is, for example, a Palestinian extremist, I don't find that that anything can change him. But, for example, I have a good friend, Aboud, who's from Syria, and he actually was helped a lot. Israel helped 200,000 Syrians during the civil war with humanitarian aid. He can say, well, look, Israel actually has nothing against anyone. They're looking to build a more peaceful region, and that can help. So I think reaching out to people who are, let's say, 2 degrees away from you, rather than people who are on absolutely the other side, is a better way to build bridges. And that you slowly widen your circle by creating bonds by people who are not that far from you. And then we discover we're actually closer than we've even imagined. So that's just my personal experience.
Thank you. Yeah, good. Thank you. That's great thing. Mazhar, I think Mazhar is waiting in the queue. Mazhar, you want to ask something? Please go ahead, Mazhar.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's good to be here, listening people from different backgrounds and different countries, and I thank Mr. Zahak for such a very good what will say the group or common platform, and given the opportunity to listen different faiths, different countries. That's good to see. I must say that I, being an Indian, I live in a very multicultural society with a lot of different faiths. But however, we have a lot of friends from other faiths, other religions, and we as a common people live in a harmony in a group. And I would like to see that in the world with other religions, other countries, and irrespective of the race, color, and everything. If we live on the common grounds as a human being, that is a lot of beneficial to us. I must agree that we all have our own views, everybody have their own views, but I feel that it's always better to be on the common grounds and respect the laws of the land wherever we are, irrespective of our views and our what will say ideology. But yes, I would just like to say that how can we eradicate or make common platforms that spreads or give a chance to hold such kind of people, such kind of opportunities. Like one of the things happened today because of the Zahak Tanvir, we got this kind of platform. But I'd like to ask, like, how can we make more such instances or more such platforms?
Yeah, thank you. We have technology. We have the power of IT these days, and we need to thank God that because of internet and because of Twitter and Zoom, and we have different tools. We are getting to know each other. We are talking to people whom we never met in our lives. So it's a great thing. I think we need to have more and more such discussions so that we can understand each other, we can respect each other, and we can shun hatred, and we can reunite. We can talk about the commonalities. I believe that you're a Muslim, so it's mentioned in the Quran that قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. Say to the people of the book, come to the common terms between us and you. So we have to find a common ground and the middle path so that every one of us can reunite and discuss and talk and understand each other. I believe Rabbi wants to add something. Please go ahead, Rabbi.
Thank you. Yeah, I just second what you're saying, and that's exactly true, that technology is allowing us to connect in ways that we have not been able to connect before. I mean, if you just look at this space, how many people do you have in how many different countries, how many different religions are all sitting in sort of one space and talking? That's something that, you know, would require an entire conference and people flying, etc., just a few years ago. So you're 100% right. I think that technology in this way is key. And I think it's beautiful because, you know, we've seen 10 years ago, 5 years ago, whether it's the Arab Spring, ISIS, or whoever it is, people using technology for bad. And now it's just amazing to see so many people like you and people that are here using technology for good, to build bridges, for peace, salam, and really just creating a better future for our children. I think that's a key and a beautiful thing.
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful thing. Thank you so much. We also have Mohammed Abbasi from London. He's the director of Association of British Muslims, and he has worked for a lot of peace initiatives in London. He's a great fan of Sun Tzu, and he teaches the art of war. So it's our honor to have Mohammed Abbasi. Mohammed Abbasi, would you like to talk about this thing, this issue of religious intolerance, and what's your view and what do you suggest? Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, salam, friends from around the world. Thank you, Zach, for putting this together. The topic is basically religious intolerance. The idea of religious intolerance, I mean, it's basically how do we start? I mean, to start with, we need to understand that we have ideas, differences. We're all different, each and every one of us. We have different ideas. And the whole idea of Islam and what Prophet taught us was to understand the other person, to not have an atom's weight of ego within when talking about religion, when talking about ideas expressed from Islamic philosophy. So, for example, when the Quran says that you will not enter paradise if you have an atom's weight of ego within you. And the thing is, I mean, right now, I'm thinking, I'm hearing some of the other participants, and I would like to, I think, hear more about some of the other participants' points of view, and maybe I could give you a more kind of a synopsis at the end. But thanks for putting this together. We need more of an exchange of ideas so we can lessen religious intolerance from different sides, especially for Muslims, because I think Muslims says about other religions, other belief systems, it's not like that. In over 1,000 years ago, Islam or the Muslim world was a very tolerant place. There were exchange of ideas, ideologies, etc., etc., and that kind of lit the fuse for what is known as the Islamic Renaissance, or the Arab Renaissance, this kind of a beautiful era where you had people from different parts of the world, Europe, you had Jewish people, other people, they were running towards the Islamic world, the Islamic Empire, as it were, and seeking asylum there, and they were prospering. But now, 1,200 years later, we are in such a position that we are kind of looked on from other Muslims as well, as though we have a religion that is very kind of conservative minded, very intolerant. It was not like that. We need to get back to that kind of Muslims. We believe our religion is not our religion as it is. It's God's religion. It's Allah's religion. And we need to treat this religion in a way that is that kind of is expressed by us Muslims in a way that is respectful and decent, and does not kind of put Allah in a position where we're kind of insulting Allah by trying to express religion in a very kind of negative way towards His creation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mohammed Abbasi, for the wonderful words. Yeah, I guess Haytham Ilham, he's in the queue. He wants to speak. He wants to ask something. Haytham, go ahead. Haytham.
You have to unmute.
Haytham, unmute yourself and ask the question. And if anyone in the list, if you want to ask the question, please request for the mic, and I'm going to grant you the mic, and you can speak. You can add some good points, and you can ask questions. So it's kind of open discussion.
If I can just second what Mr. Abbasi so beautifully said, you look especially at Jews who escaped from Spain in 1492. They escaped the Christian extremism there, and many of them indeed went to live in Muslim countries, in Morocco, in Egypt, and across North Africa, Syria. And I think that's a great example of showing how Muslim societies have been in many ways a place where Jews ended up finding a safe haven. And that's something that we're seeing in our generation. Really, in the past 2 years, we're seeing a lot of similar trends, in a beautiful way, of Jews who've previously not visited those countries or who lived in those countries, and then were not able to live there. I think that you're seeing a change for that, and a real embrace between Jews and Muslims in a way that really is beautiful and reminds you of the close history that the two people have had.
Wonderful, excellent. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Sharon, you want to add something? You want to add some new points? Irina?
That's pretty much what I wanted to emphasize, is that past histories has always shown that when it comes down to our history, that we've all lived together in the past, and that's our true nature is coming together, and it's not the separation. So that's what we need to start embracing again. And as I said, like I truly enjoyed myself and venturing off. So I am ecstatic about the Abraham Accord, and more people starting to enjoy that. So I am one. I think more and more people see me, I do tweet about it all the time, that I appreciate it, and seeing more and more people starting to realize how it is going to hopefully, change the perspective of more people, and more people start to reach out and expand their horizon, which is what I hope happens. And as more views start to change, hopefully more other political things start to change, is the whole aspect of it. But it takes baby steps, and that's pretty much what's going on. So that's what I personally am, it takes your perspective of the world to change, to make the world around you changing. So that's, and as we continue to keep growing and expanding, that's what I kind of hope happens.
Indeed, that's true. After the Abrahamic Accords, it changed the views of a lot of us. We used to think something about the Middle East, and after this Abrahamic Accords, we have changed our views. And in fact, I believe that more and more people will realize how the things are changing in the Middle East, especially now what's happening in Dubai, Expo 2020. And a lot of countries have participated in that. And we also have Israel participating in Expo 2020. So I think the things are changing and moving towards something very positive. And I believe that all these conflicts and extremism and religious bigotry and and bigotry and racism. This will all end one day, and we all can have a peaceful world to live, inshallah. Yeah, Irina, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
I want to also make sure to emphasize that as important as it is to learn from the positive in history, history is complicated. There's been ups and downs. I want to make sure that people understand that it's important uh, to learn all of it in order to build a better future. Because I've seen it happen where extremists chose particular stories to kind of distort and emphasize and became obsessed with the history to the negative. Or when people, on the contrary, whitewashed stories of bigotry and biases, and then it became very difficult to recognize the fact that there are still problems today that need to be worked out through systematic and consistent reforms and efforts, and not just by governments, but also by the private sectors, by individuals, by communities, families, societies. It takes all of that. It's things don't change over time, and there's going to be challenges, disappointments. So it's important to also manage expectations in trying to create something, and not to generalize or not to make assumptions about something that goes wrong, and certainly not bring a person's religion into where there's some individual wrongdoing, and not blame the entire religion, all of it, for that particular person or group's choices or mistakes.
True. That's true. That's really true. What you have mentioned, that we should not be, bringing religion in everything, and by bringing religion in everything, that has caused much damage, and people are already suffering due to this phenomenon. Yes, Omar.
Ask Mr. Zahak. So you
Yes.
just mentioned that we shouldn't really bring religion into everything, but obviously, um, as a Muslim, as submitters to the oneness of Allah, everything we do is dictated by our religion. So how does one then, not bring religion into everything?
The thing we are talking about here is to bring religion for political purposes. That's what Irina was pointing out. She mentioned about using religion for the political purposes. Yes, we do have religion. It's dictated by Allah. It's dictated by the Quran. I mean, we are told how we can live our lives. We have do's and don'ts, everything. But to use religion for the political purposes and to use it as a tool, that's not what is encouraged in Islam. I would like to give you one or two instances from the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. His own son-in-law, Uthman bin Affan, was a great businessman, but Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he did not use religion to promote the business of his son-in-law. In fact, at the time of his death, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, gave his shield as a collateral to a Jew. So it was with a Jew at the time of his death. So he had companions who were wealthy. He had companions who were rich, but he did not use religion. He did not bring religion for the purpose of business or politics. That's what we are talking about.
If I can just add one more point to that, I think one of the most important points about religion and tolerance goes back to what happened in England in the 1600s, where you had a really horrible religious war in Europe that killed, a double-digit percentage of Europe's population. And it's after that people realized really that religion is an amazing force for good, but it can also be used for bad. And that's really what began an era of religious tolerance, realizing that the dangers of taking religion to an extreme or using it for political purposes is something that can backfire. And you see that also, in terms of what's going on now in Yemen, maybe in Afghanistan, is that people realize that once religion is used for political purposes, etc., then that can backfire and actually end up, tearing a society from within. So yes, absolutely, we all should stick to our religion and, never compromise on your religion and take pride in it. Absolutely. But it's also important to be aware of where people can take it and how far it can sometimes get out of control.
Exactly. That's the point. That's the point we have. That using religion as a tool for politics is discouraged. It shouldn't be done in any way. Okay, Faris, you want to speak? You want to ask something, or you want to add something?
I want to just say
No,
that
absolutely, completely agree. I mean,
religion and politics should be separated, as you said.
yeah,
But I don't understand the people out there. They don't wanna. They say that if they say that politics should be according to the religions. That's why, for this purpose, they say that the religion should be used for politics. And we know that, even though we know that, yeah, some aspects of politics, if they go out of religion, then we can't use those aspects. But if we use the politics within the religious context, not like you use the religion for politics by itself, but that means you have some religious hudud, as they say, or the limitations to use to do politics, whatever. If you do that, then that's not a problem.
You're right, Faris. It's like religion tells you how to do business, but religion doesn't tell you to use religion as a tool for business. Okay, so you shouldn't be using religion for business, but religion tells you how to do business. In the same way, religion tells you how to do politics, but it doesn't allow you to use it as a tool for politics. So that's the difference we need to understand.
I think
So
I would just kind of almost rephrase it a little bit, just to add that
peace be upon him, settled in Medina. He set about creating the first state, kind of a solid state. We call it an Islamic state at that time. So in Medina, most of the people there were non-Muslims. There were Jewish tribes, there were Arabs who had not accepted Islam. So the Prophet was asked to govern by Allah all the citizens. And this basically made a formal agreement known as the Charter of Medina. I think it was 622-23 AD. Now, we need to bear in mind that the Charter of Medina predated the English Magna Carta by almost about 6 centuries. The English Magna Carta was basically the rights of people in the UK, in England, and how everyone is equal under under the law. So the Charter of Medina was a formal agreement in 622. And bear in mind that 45% of the population of Medina were basically non-Muslim Arabs, 40% were Jews, only around 15%, not even 20%, 15%, less than 1 in 5 people were Muslims. And with it is all emphasized tolerance and appreciation. And I think we need to move away from the word tolerance and go towards appreciation. And because if you look at chapter 10, verse 100 of the Quran, it says, if you have his will, surely all who are on earth would have believed together. Will you then force men to become believers? So Allah is talking to Muslims, talking to them to be kind of humble in front of Allah and realize that there's people who will have different kinds of points of view on different things, not just about Allah, about God, about Islam, about creation, different things. And this is why Islam of the past was considered a very kind of an intelligent religion, thinking religion, people's kind of a religion. And also, if you look at the Holy Quran, chapter 2, verse 257, it says there should be no compulsion in religion. Surely the right way has become distinct from error. So basically, it's all about thinking how we express our Islam. And what it is, we see religion, specifically Islam, used as a political tool is not the Islam of the Prophet. It's an Islam of politics. It's a political control mechanism. So we need to move away from those people who would try to use Allah's religion as a political tool, because that is not showing humility towards Allah, humility as Muslims. But this also exists within some other religious traditions as well. So they also, some, not all, some also use Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism as a political tool. But we, all of us as believers, regardless of our religious understanding, we need to protect um, those teachings that have been passed down by our prophets, our teachers, that we try to build a foundation within us to kind of connect to Allah, or what we consider Allah. So we should be very, very aware as Muslims that the religion that we follow, Islam, is a tool that should make us humble and should connect us with Allah's creation and not cut us off Allah's creation, as some Muslims who practice Islam as a political tool do to simply get control over other Muslims.
True, that's really true what you have mentioned. I believe Irina, you were about to say something and you got cut off. So would you continue?
Well, actually, it comes very close to what was already said, which was, I was just going to rephrase it a little bit. Basically, that religion should be viewed as an ethical guidance, as a guide, as an information to inform one's choices, to provide both individuals and communities an ethical way of living life, and a spiritual life, a connected life with oneself, with God, with other human beings. But it's not a tool for manipulating people, for taking advantage of them, or enforcing power. This should not be the case. To the extent that there have been religious governments and religious societies, either there was a separation between the spiritual guidance and the government to some extent, or even the religion was supposed to guide the actions, but it was not supposed to interfere with the relationships and be used as a substitute, or as a tool of manipulation.
That's really true, and we can relate to this to what happened in 1979, the so-called Islamic Revolution in Iran. That's exactly the Khomeini Revolution, and then came the Muslim Brotherhood, and we have seen what happened to the Middle East because politics, the religion was manipulated and was used as a political tool for the political purposes. So that's the sad reality. So, Sharon, Abbasi, Rabbi, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, again, thank you to you for organizing. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you to everyone who really came here with an open mind to listen. This is an incredible, I would say even beginning of many more good things. I think it's important to note that in terms of religion, look, I can't tell any Muslim or Christian how to observe their religion, right? Obviously, religion is a very personal thing. But I think that what we've seen in our century and what countries like England learned in the 1600s is that you have to see that the second religion turns on people outside as a political tool for violence, etc. Eventually, it turns on its own people. And that's what you see in Iran now with the IRGC and the Ayatollahs abusing their own people and really hurting them. So I think you have to note that with religious extremism never ends with the person on the outside. Eventually, people just use it on their own people, and that's very very sad. And I think what we can do is learn from history, learn from examples, and as a rabbi I know likes saying, the greatest crime against religion is the crime of using religion for something bad. So when people use religion, for violence, etc., that in and of itself is a crime against religion. And I think if you look at Islam, Muslims are the ones who basically invented math, philosophy. A lot of the greatest things that we know about were invented in the golden era of Islam, and I think that in many ways we're seeing that kind of renaissance today. And I think that sometimes you lead by example. I think that the more people see that that Islam is this sort of exemplar of all, this dialogue, etc. I think that in and of itself is a great service to religion, as opposed to people seeing violence and things like that. And like I said, that's exactly what happened in England in the 1600s. So thank you for this conversation. I definitely learned a lot and am open to learning more. And it's just been really incredible to be able to hear and connect. And if there's any future conversation, I always would love to speak or connect with anyone. But I really appreciate this.
No, that's actually our honor that you have joined this space and you have spoken your heart out, and you gave some of the glimpses from the history as well and the modern day, what's happening right now. We really need more and more people like you, and we need to have more and more, discussions like this. And since we got this, technology, and we have this internet, so we can connect more often, and we can speak to each other, and we can understand each other. So we have a very amazing platform, and we have very amazing people. So I guess we can have more such discussions in future. Let me give you a spoiler that this conversation could not be recorded because there is some issue with the Twitter application. So I could do whatever I could, but I recorded some of the audios. But I guess in future we can have some Zoom discussions where all of us can see each other and understand what we are speaking, and we can watch each other and the gestures and the body language. That will be more efficient in understanding our message.
That's good. I'm good with that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sharon. I believe Sharon was. We were speaking for the past 2 months, and Sharon was asking me if we could have platforms and forums like this where we could talk and discuss and talk to each other. And unfortunately, we couldn't have because of the busy schedules every one of us is hitched up with. But I guess it's quite easy, so we can have more often, inshallah. So thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all the panelists and all the beautiful and wonderful speakers, and all these lovely audience who joined this space to talk and discuss about the significant topic. I wish we can meet in future as well. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.